leader of the Mayor's Clergy Advisory Council. He's also one of the co-chairs for the Micah table. He does so much, but to me, he's just Mike. So can we put our hands together and welcome Reverend Dr. Michael Waldron?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It is always good to be here, and to be here especially at the invitation of my dear friend, my sister, Pastor Q English, and I'm grateful for her unwavering commitment not only to this community, but to New York City. And she is a tremendous example of what it is to be a leader and pastor who is deeply committed to community transformation. And so we ought to just be grateful. Let's just take a pause and give Q a hand just for her. And I have a good time for their work. I am always amazed at the kind of work they do, and they encourage me to be vigilant in the work that I've been called to in this season. Now, when Q asked me to come speak, she said, just kind of speak about anything that has to do with what we want to do in terms of justice. I said, that's a lot. But I'll make a few comments given our current political climate and given, I think, the role of the faith community in this season when it comes to engaging in the work of justice. I'm sure Dr. Pryor may have mentioned this passage, but there is a powerful scripture in the book of Micah. It has become a standard for those of us who are called to engage in social justice and social transformation. And it is that powerful passage where, through the prophet, he challenges the people and raises the question, what does the Lord require? And then the prophet Micah responds to the question that is raised, that he raises, and that is, God requires us to do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with God. But the reality is, though, that prior to that passage in the book of Micah, the real wrestling between God and God's people is with regard to what are appropriate sacrifices, what shapes the community of faith. And the prophet makes it clear to the people that the role of the faith-based community, of a faith community at times, is not necessarily to be intoxicated by the rituals that shape what they do, or even the ritualistic sacrifices, because it is possible to be so consumed with liturgy, protocol, and ritual that we lose sight of the heart of this journey, which is our call and commitment to justice and transformative work. It still happens today when we become so consumed with what we believe is the maintenance of certain doctrine that we forget to care about the lives of those who are wounded and hurting and suffering in our communities. And so while the people may be ambivalent about what is the proper sacrifice that God desires, God makes it clear that what God requires is to do justice, love mercy, and to walk humbly with God. I've often been amazed by that line and those lines in the scripture, because God does not require us to be leaders who are simply shaped by justice rhetoric or justice language, because we have more than enough of those who have the right language but the wrong practice. And there is an inconsistency between language and practice. And the danger is that often, and too often, many of our faith leaders and faith communities allow their actions to portray their language, or their language to portray their actions. And that leads to gross inconsistency in who we claim to be. And so God says, do justice. Do not talk about it. Do not simply theorize about it, but begin to embody what these acts look like. In many ways, who we are as people of faith, we have to allow our words to become flesh, and so that people can experience the transformative presence of God versus just simply hearing us talk about God. It was godly who reminded all of us that sometimes, in an effort to be representatives of God, no matter what your faith background is, that we become so consumed at times with the right ideas, we forget the wrong practice. And it was Gandhi who said that to a hungry man, food is God. In other words, that there's a practicality to our work as people of faith when it comes to meeting the needs of people and communities, and more importantly, to do justice, and then to love mercy. It is amazing how in this period of time there is so much divisiveness that is rampant and pervasive in our communities. I'm amazed at how little we talk about mercy. Mercy is connected to forgiveness. And isn't it amazing that some of the most vitriolic language and some of the most divisive language is uttered from places and spaces where people claim to be people of God, where a lot of the language is not the language that binds communities, but sometimes that language ruptures communities, because we're so consumed with what we believe are certain standards for our faith that we forget what it means to uphold standards to be human beings. And sometimes I often ask myself, I'm a Protestant, I'm a Christian pastor, but is my call in life to be a better Christian or a better human being? And that means something, because in my experience as a pastor for 21 years, I've seen people who were great Christians but poor humans, because they were able to hold doctrines and ideas and concepts connected to their faith. But when it came to living out through the lenses of love and justice and forgiveness and mercy, that there was an inconsistency. And so there again, the prophet says, well, do justice, love mercy, love it, love mercy. To have a love affair with mercy, the ability to look beyond someone's struggle, someone's issues, someone's sometimes turbulent actions, and see the human being beyond the actions, so that you meet the human being with love and forgiveness, instead of seeking to undermine the humanity of another human being because somehow they have engaged in some fractured action. And so again, the prophet says, do justice, love mercy, and then lastly, and I'm not finished, but I want to continue after this, in terms of this scripture, and walk humbly with God. I love how the Message Bible puts it by Eugene Peterson. He says, don't take yourself too seriously, take God more seriously. To walk humbly with God. In other words, to understand that at the end of the day, the work we are called to and the work that shapes us is not work that is based on self-aggrandizing motives. I know that is strange in these times where there's so many people of faith who are consumed with narcissistic tendencies. I know that it's different, but in many ways we are called to decrease so that God may increase, and so that the work we are called to do shines through us. It is amazing how many of us who are faith leaders, we want attention. And we don't always engage in participation. I'm amazed at how many of us are consumed with wanting to be celebrities but not faithful, who want status but not consistent practice, who want to be recognized but don't want to honor the dignity of all human beings. But when you begin to walk humbly with God, you understand that at the end of the day, the work that we do, the work we are called to, is not about our elevation, but it's the elevation of God and the idea of God. And more than that, the ideas that the prophet puts forward, justice and mercy, and to take that seriously. Well, now, what does that mean for us, especially in this city, especially in this country? While there are confirmation hearings going on, people who will be part of what could be a very dangerous administration in the history of this country. I know sometimes we don't like talking politics, but I don't know how you can be a person who loves Jesus and be apolitical, especially when Jesus makes many political statements, especially in a time of rapid materialism. When you talk about a priority for the poor, that is a political statement, whether you believe it, understand it, or not. And so what does that mean for us who are people of faith? And I'm going to say there are three levels that we ought to, I think, engage in. One is awareness. Awareness, activity, and then activism. Awareness. Well, I see a lot of people in this city. Sometimes I've gone to more meetings and more gatherings and talked at more moments like this, and excluding this one because I happen to know Pastor Q. I know what this yields. But I've been in many of these kinds of gatherings where I realize that many of us have a burning desire to see justice done, who have a heart and a passion for people and a desire to see our communities transformed. We have zeal, but it is not always according to knowledge. In other words, our understanding of the various crises that we face can often be elevated. And so awareness is important to me because it means having a grasp of the issues that are at hand. And I just want to say a few things with regard to awareness. When you speak about awareness, there's a difference between false narratives and narratives steeped in truth. What we see now being played out before us, and whether it is in our media or even in this last election political cycle, we saw a bombardment of false narratives and sensationalized narratives that were not always steeped in truth. There are many who say this is a post-fact era. I would go even further. This is a post-truth era where there is no idea at the end of the day what truth really looks like. Truth depends on the person who's spewing the supposed facts. And in this age of social media, sometimes truth is connected to the person who has the most followers and not the most accurate proclamations. And so awareness means that there's an awareness of what the real issues are. And let me give you some examples of false narratives that sometimes shape who we are. In this last presidential election, there were people who saying the turnout was so low that only 46% of Americans actually participated in the process. That is what you call a false narrative, and a media spin narrative to put forward a particular narrative that raises sensationalism and draws what they call people or ratings, so to speak. What does that mean? Well, in this country, there's about 318 million people. Of the 318 million people in this country, only 219 million are eligible to vote. That's a good number. 219 million eligible to vote in this country. What does that mean? Well, there's some people who just can't vote. Like my nieces cannot vote. Right? I have a godbrother who's incarcerated who cannot vote. In other words, when the media says only 46% of the population, they're talking about the overall population of the United States. And they do not say that only 219 million of the 318 million are eligible to vote. Well, let's push the numbers even more. Of the 219 million who are eligible to vote in this country, only 149 million are registered. I want you to catch this. 149 million registered out of 18 million people, and 219 eligible to vote. 149 million are registered to vote. I will push another number. This last presidential election, if you've been paying attention to the numbers that's been coming out, this last election actually had more voters than 2012. See, people have been following the numbers as they've been coming in. So this last election had about 130 million votes cast. I want you to hear that. In 2000, the Gore-Bush controversy, there were only 111 million votes cast in this country. But in 2016, 130 million votes were cast. Now, if you know math, and I never claimed to be great at math, I love humanities. And if you're doing math, though, if 149 million people are registered and 130 million voted, that's a little over, I think that's over 87% voted. And yet, the media would say it was a low turnout year. Which means that those of us who seek to do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with God must be in radical pursuit of what truth is in this age and be able to decipher between false narratives and information that help us to galvanize our communities to do great work. I'll give you some other information before I move on to the next. Awareness. Here it is. Right now, many of us have been frustrated. Some of us may not be in this room. I don't make assumptions about partisan affiliations. But some may be frustrated because of the new administration that may come into play. But if you get fixated on the new administration, you will miss what has already been happening. And what happened after 2008, I may have shared this before, after 2008 and 2012, there were many people who believed that the election of an African American not only signaled the changing demographics of this country, but there were those who were a little nervous about these changing demographics in our country. Some call it the browning of America, so to speak. And part of the problem that what caused fear in many quarters of this country was that an African American man could be elected president and only garner 39% of the white vote. I want you to hear that. Which means it is possible then for someone to be elected president of the United States and not have the majority of the white vote. I want you to let that sink in for a second, because that in of itself is unprecedented. So what it caused for some, especially those who are of the what we would call the 10th or the 1%, who actually, through the multinational corporations, run much of the politics in this country. That's another conversation. Because when you have politicians who are elected to regulate the corporations, but then the politicians lean on the corporations to establish regulatory laws, that means that those who are supposed to be regulated are actually doing the regulating. You'll get that later when you get that.
I got it.
And so that means that many of the people who are elected officials are supposed to be safeguarding us from are actually shaping the law that establishes this country, this society. Right? And so what happened is when those persons saw what happened in the election, this is awareness now, they began to put forward a massive agenda. An agenda to do what? Shrink the voting pool and to limit the impact of the browning of America, which means people like the Koch brothers you may know of or heard of. They began to pump billions of dollars into state races because they figured if we can't get the White House, we can win state houses back and thereby engage in gerrymandering, redistricting to limit the impact of the browning of America. And so all throughout this country, once Citizens United was passed, they began to pump billions into local races, not federal, local races, state races, to change the dynamics in this country. And they were successful. These meetings and these attempts by the Koch brothers started in 1980. It's 2017. And they started this. And what did it mean then? It meant, if you look at the numbers now, in the United States, there are 32 state houses that are completely controlled by Republicans, 17 completely controlled by Democrats. Of the 32 state houses completely controlled by Republicans, that represents 61% of the United States population. I want you to hear this. See, these are the numbers and things we don't hear about. And this is the kind of information that can shape our understanding and change our activism so that we don't engage against the wrong targets. You see, for example, there are people, and I applaud the efforts, there are people now in DC who are saying stop Sessions, wrong target. Jeff Sessions is not the target. Race is often a low-hanging fruit in this country. But I need to tell folk all the time, if you follow activism, and you remember back in the 70s, 60s, 70s, it was the Black Panther Party. And one of the leaders of the Black Panthers who was assassinated was a 21-year-old brother named Fred Hampton. Fred Hampton, in a particular speech, said that in America, race is always the smoke and mirrors used, that race is actually second to class in this country. And so when he was organizing whites and African Americans and Latinos and Asians and Native Americans. And when you begin to develop transcendent narratives and transcendent activism, you become a problem and a threat to the powers that be in this country. And he was eliminated because too often the narrowness and parochialism of our vision undermines our activism and our activity, especially when we want to do real transformative work in our communities. Why? Because you cannot do transformative work being narrow and parochial in your thinking. Because transformative work, like we're talking about today, can only be done through partnerships, relationships, and allies working together for common agenda and common causes. And that does not necessarily need to be permanent enemies in this struggle. Awareness and information, and having the right information to understand the nature of the activism we engage in. Awareness is important. Having the right information is important. Because again, without the right information, we find ourselves responding to issues that may not be the critical issues. But when you now find yourself in an age, right, of false narratives and outright lies. For example, and again, I don't want to offend anyone if you're partisan here, but our soon-to-be president said that he was going to what? Build a wall. Secondly, deport 11 million people. Thirdly, bring back jobs to America. I won't deal with the first two. Let's talk about the last one, because that's what motivated many people to vote for him. The idea, the myth that he could bring back jobs to America. The jobs that are lost in America have not been lost because of immigrants or illegal immigrants in this country. My family is immigrants. I'm the first one in my entire family born in the United States. And in America's loss of jobs has nothing to do with illegal immigrants. The loss of jobs in this country have to do with two factors, main factors. One, the offshoring of jobs or outsourcing to other countries. Two, automation. Now let's be clear. The fastest growing job sector in this country is what? Anybody knows? Tech. Fastest growing job with the most available job, tech. Okay, continue. Anybody else? You know, this fast food industry. It's the fast food industry, the most availability of jobs, more than tech. Tech is highly skilled. Fast food industry is low skill. And so when we began our work many years ago to fight for 15, and many of us were celebrating the accomplishments, there was a downside to this. And it was one that some people, including myself, warned many of the activists. And that is, in the desire to get a living wage of $15 for fast food workers, we may have hastened the automation of that industry. Because now, what does that mean? An owner could say, okay, fine, we'll give you $15 an hour, but we'll reduce the employees necessary by using automation. We cut the workforce in half, so we now reduce the job force, which means that a limited amount of people who are working, and in some place in the city right now, you can go downtown in the village, and you'll see kiosks in McDonald's, not people.
Yep.
All right? That is where job loss is taking place. So when you talk about manufacturing sector, there is no incentive, no amount of money that our president can bribe, offer, give someone to make them bring their jobs back to the United States who have engaged in offshoring. If I can place someone in a developing country 50 cents an hour where there are no labor laws, no unions, and no necessity for health benefits, and I maximize my profit, there's no way you're going to get me to leave that to come back here and then fight over benefits and living wage. Impossible. Not going to happen. So that is a myth. That means that there are many people who found themselves voting an idea that was steeped in a false narrative because of a lack of awareness and information. Won't happen. Can't happen. We got misguided along the way. So awareness is critical. And then after awareness is activity. That's the word. Today, what you engage in here, what Pastor Q and Pastor Tim did was a form of activity. To take the awareness and get people to get in motion through these creative partnerships, through raising these piercing questions. How do we rise for justice? How do we come together in communities that would yield transformation, especially some of our most underserved, undercounted, overlooked communities? How do we begin this process? This is activity. This is when you take awareness and begin to give it flesh. In many ways, this is why today's gathering is important. And this is why gatherings like this around this community and around this city become important. Because activity that lets people know you can take your frustration, you can take your angst and target it directly to specific projects and work, whether it be building the relationships with police, whether it becomes building relationships between faith communities and community-based organizations, whatever it is, this is the kind of activity that becomes necessary. Now, mind you, the beauty about this work is that when it's done in a great way, it can not only spawn activity, but then raise awareness. And think about it. We're here in the Bronx today. You have all the top brass in the NYPD here. You have the media here in the Bronx talking about how we begin to talk about justice. That's amazing. But that's the kind of work that is necessary. So there's awareness, there's activity that helps raise awareness and brings the issue to the light. And then there is activism. Right? Which is a kind of targeted engagement that yields transformative fruit that is connected to policy and legal transformation. Because at the end of the day, if your activism is not connected to policy, you're doing nothing but publicly venting. I want you to hear that. And what we've seen is a lot of public venting in the past 2 years, not attached to policy, not attached to direct results, but we've seen a lot of venting. Or as I heard one of my friends say, we've seen a lot of public temper tantrums. But we haven't seen the fruit that is necessary to put things in motion. Your activism, if it is not targeted and intentional, and there's a desired outcome that yields itself to communal transformation or the shifting of policy, it's not even activity. It's called unnecessary busy work. So that people can say, I've been doing something. And when you find in this day, a lot of our activism and a lot of activists want to be able to say, I did something. Whether or not the activism yields any fruit. I was there. They'll say, I was in North Dakota. I was in Ferguson. I was in Baton Rouge. I was in Staten Island. I showed up. Look at my selfie. Look at my followers on Facebook. Look at the people on social media. Look at Twitter. I've been there and I'm doing it. I'm busy, but busyness is not activism. Because activism, again, has a desired outcome connected to policy and legal transformation. Yes. But you see, if you're not aware
and there's no information, no knowledge galvanizing your movement, then it becomes busy work that will yield no fruit. And there are times when symbolism is important in activism. For example, over the next week and so, there'll be people from around the country going to D.C. for various rallies and protests and marches and so to speak. Now, some people will say, well, what is all this marching for? Marching doesn't get anything. That's deep, because if you tell the people in South Korea who marched and got the president impeached, they'll tell you marching works. You see, it is only we who do it, who don't sustain it, who think it doesn't work. Protest doesn't work. Talk to our Native American brothers and sisters in North Dakota, and they'll let you know that it can yield fruit if you sustain the engagement. But again, if you turn activism into an event, then it's not sustained engagement. And we've seen too much of that. Meet us at the rally at so-and-so place. We come to the rally, no follow-up, no next steps. We showed up. It became an event, but it was not activism. And too much event-based social justice work is dominating the scene right now. We're going to social justice events, like gatherings, like parties, to show up, take pictures, say we were there. And a lot of it is driven because many of us are not strong enough and courageous enough to tell the truth that we've been seduced by the presence of cameras or intoxicated with the presence of media. And we don't want to say that. So we want to begin to say that we're genuine in our desire to see things happen, but don't want to be honest that we're just trying to raise our profiles. And no one wants to admit that. Right? So there it is, activism that yields some intentional desired outcome connected to policy and legal transformation. That is our work. That is our call, to be aware, to be active, and then to be activists. That is who we're called to be. To get the right information so we can make the right decisions and use our resources the right way. And stop looking for the empty, or rather the easy targets. You see, Jeff Sessions is an easy target. The easiest target in this country is someone who has made racist statements. People like Rex Tillerson, who's confirmation today, that's not an easy target because it takes having to access information. Like the person who'll be advising our new president on regulatory practice is one of the most noted persons in support of deregulation. And what does that mean? That means that many of our financial industry will find themselves once again and have been engaged in the practices that led to the recession, depression of 2008. And the reason why these financial industries can take chances with the money of our communities, our state, our country, and take these risks that yield great payoffs for the CEOs and the corporations, because they know they'll be bailed out. And what happens? The poor people in our country, the middle class, the tax burden rests upon them, and then jobs are lost, and houses are lost, and communities are devastated. But what happens? Those who are the 10th or the 1% do well. Why? Because it's deregulation. I'll close. I can sit here all day and talk about this. But let me tell you this and show you how in misinformation. Many of us were alive when Richard Nixon was impeached. You remember that? Mm-hmm. You know, Tricky Dick, that's what you call him, Richard. And we thought, many of us who didn't understand the real power dynamics or was given misinformation, we thought that that Richard Nixon was impeached because what? He lied. Now you tell me the politician. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if we start getting rid of politicians and elected officials because they lied, we have to start all over, right? So he lied about knowledge of the Watergate thing, so he's impeached. Not so. That was what we all thought. And then some of us, they played the race card and saying, well, he was racist. And many people, yes, Richard Nixon was a racist. He didn't like black people, all that kind of stuff. But the real deal was this. Richard Nixon, as bad as some people may have thought he was, as racist and bigoted or misogynistic as he may have been, he was what was considered the last New Deal president. In other words, he continued to maintain the policies of Lyndon B. Johnson that were connected to social uplift. And so he maintained those programs. And part of the maintenance of those programs, reinforcing social safety nets, Medicare, right, Social Security, food stamps, SNAP, all those things. In addition to that, he maintained the regulations of the financial industry. And so they went in an all-out effort to get him out of the way because deregulation leads to maximum profits. And so that was the real deep reason behind why he was moved out of the way. And once he was impeached and Gerald Ford became president, lobbyists now started swarming into D.C. And the financial industry took hold, and our economy thoroughly moved from being a manufacturing economy to the financialization of our economy because Richard Nixon was out the way and regulatory practices were almost wiped out. That is what happens. But when you don't have the right information, you find yourself being active about the wrong things and angry about the wrong things. So we have much work to do in the city. We have much work to engage in the city. And people of faith and community-based organizations who care about this city, we have to begin to raise our awareness, enhance our activity, and then have purpose-driven activism that leads to policy transformation and legal transformation, so that at the end of the day, when God asks us, have we been faithful? When the universe beckons us to tell who we are, we can say that at the end of the day, we did justice, we loved mercy, and we walked humbly with God. Peace and blessings.